In this short video, we'll be talking you through the ABC check. A is for air. Squeeze the tyres from either side. If they are anything but firm, you'll need to add some air. This is just a very quick check. We'll go through a more accurate way to check your tyre pressures later on. Next, we'll check the brakes. Squeeze the front brake and push the handlebars forward. The back wheel should lift off the floor. Squeeze the back brake and pull the handlebars towards you, and the front wheel should lift off the floor. The final thing to check every ride is the chain. It should spin freely, should also look clean, generally silver or sometimes grey. Those are the things we recommend checking every ride. It's also worth sometimes checking the saddle by rocking it back and forward, left and right, seeing if it moves. It shouldn't. And also to check the steering. To do this, place the front wheel between your feet, lock it in place and try to turn the handlebars. Again, they should not move. If they do, you need to tighten some bolts. Back to A. I mentioned that we would go through a more accurate way of checking the tyre pressures. If you look on the sidewall of your tyre, it will have a recommended pressure or pressure range. In this case, written just here. Firstly, we'll cover inflating a tyre with a Presta valve. Those are the skinny ones as shown here. We recommend putting the valve at the 5 or 7 o'clock position, especially if you're running tubeless. Take off the cap, undo the little nut at the top and press it in to make sure you get some air escaping. Take the pump, attach it, you should hear some air escaping, and lock it in place. Pump until the little needle matches the recommended tyre pressure on the tyre. You can just about see this here. When that's done, open the lever, pull the pump head off, close the little nut, and then reapply the top cap. At this point, it's also worth giving the tyre a squeeze so you know roughly what you're feeling for as to whether it's the right pressure. Next up, we have the Schrader or car type valve. If you have these, it's much easier. You just need to apply the pump to the valve, lock it off, and start pumping. When you reach the required pressure, take off the pump and you're good to go. So back to brakes. We covered what they should do if they're working, but what about if they're not working? Well, if you squeeze on the brake and the wheel doesn't stop like this, then they need to be tightened. It should work like this. If your brakes are too loose, the lever will come all the way back to the bars. This is no good in an emergency, so they may need to be tightened up a little bit again. You want it to be so that the lever pulls about halfway to the bars. And now back to chains. As with the brakes, we showed you how it should work, but not necessarily what happens if it's not working properly. If you've accidentally changed gear while you're stationary, this might happen. Normally, switching back to the correct gear, if you count from the largest one as number 1, should be able to help you get the right number, then it should slot straight back in. But unfortunately, on this bike, it didn't quite go to plan. So that is your basic ABC check. That's air, brakes and chain before every ride, and occasionally the saddle and steering. Thank you for watching.